Welcome, amazing realtors, agents, investors from across the country. Today is January 17th, 2018, and this is Mastermind call number 211. Before I turn it over to my partners, a couple things I did want to mention on the call today. I'm expecting we're going to have a record turnout. We did a couple campaigns this week. On Tuesday, we did a Facebook Live presentation for Aaron Wittenstein's group, Lead Generation Scripts and Objections. If any of you aren't part of that group, it's one of the biggest and I think one of the best real estate Facebook groups out there. And Aaron invited his people to kind of come on the call today and listen in. And one of the president of Exit Realty also was nice enough to do a big campaign for us this week. So we may have Exit Realty agents on the call also. And I just want to let all of you know this is not intended to be a sales call. This is our weekly call for our subscribers where we kind of get together and brainstorm. If any of you are on the call and you haven't spoken to a salesperson yet, if you need lead counts or you want to know how the program works, just call 954-400-3500. 954-400-3500, and even during the call, our sales team will be available to take your calls. The other thing I just wanted to mention real quick, we have a tremendous turnout on these calls. We have a lot of people that show up every week, and we're very cognizant of the fact that a lot of you are brand new, and we do realize that we do tend to get asked the same questions over and over again, but we decided not to make this a monitored call. We want it to be an open forum where nobody is muted out and everybody can participate. So what we may do or we will do from time to time, if it's a question you ask like the lightning strike or scrubbing the leads, we may just refer you to the best place to find that information if it's something we just talked about in the last couple of weeks. And finally, I wanted to make everybody aware along the same lines is I think we probably have the most robust search bar I have ever seen anywhere. If you're a subscriber, don't sign in as a subscriber. Just go to alltheleads.com and type whatever you're looking for in the search bar. If you want to know how to work attorneys, put the word attorneys. If you talk about scrubbing the leads, just put scrubbing. And it'll bring up every conversation. We probably have, Chad, 400 or 500 hours of recorded content. It'll bring up every call, every conversation, every place on the website where we've covered that before. So that might just be a shortcut to get a lot of your questions answered. And having said that, I don't want you to be shy. Feel free to speak up on the call. It is an open forum, but if it is something we recently covered, we may just refer you rather than go into a lot of detail. Anything you want to say about that, Ched?
No, I think you were thorough.
Okay. Tim, our fearless CEO, anything you'd like to add this week?
The only thing I'd say is to that point. A lot of people get on these calls and they're intimidated by nobody necessarily wants to be on the radio that first time, and so just be aware that we're your friends. We're here to help you. And Tim made probably the best point of all, which is that this is not a sales call. You're here because you're interested, and our corporate philosophy is that we give away as much as we can possibly give. We'll do well if you continue to do well. So if you've got a question about any aspect of what we're doing, or just you're looking for a friendly ear to sound something off on, as Jim said, there are no limits here. Ask us anything you want. We'll be happy to do it. We're not trying to pitch you. So it's always enjoyable to listen to these calls, and we hope you'll feel free to do that. But if you don't feel comfortable speaking up, Tom will also tell you, and Tom, I'm not trying to steal your thunder here, but anything you don't want to talk about online, if you want to put it into a question, just send it into support@alltheleads.com, and we'll definitely answer any questions that you have. And if you need some one-on-one time with one of us, we'll even get in touch with you. So we're here to help.
Excellent. And Tim, if you have something else to say, I could hear you, but you were a little bit, your speakerphone was just a little bit cutting in and out there, so you may want to pick up next time. But your message came across. Yeah, you came across. I think we could all understand what you said. Chad, anything you want to cover from a training perspective?
Probate Mastery, January Probate Mastery is starting on Monday, the 21st. It's going to run from 2 p.m. till 4 to 6-ish, depending on how interactive the group is. We already have 15 people in the class that are that have taken the class previously. So anyone who, if you've previously had Mastery and you want a refresher, just to sit in and see what's changed, just email support and let us know. And if you have not had Mastery, you can find that in the subscriber portal under Education and Training, or on the public site under the System Education and Training. And that'll be the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
Excellent. And as always, just to remind everybody, you don't have to take Mastery. However, when we look at our statistics, people that take Mastery are way more successful, and they're way more likely to stick around and, be lifers in the program, stick around and get the most benefit out of it. So it's definitely
on training. So anyone who's been in Mastery before, you should have gotten an invite to our closed Facebook group, Probate Mastery Alumni. And it came from, I don't even remember the name. It wasn't from me. I had somebody help me send the invite. So if you saw that and you didn't join, I know there's only a few hundred people in the group, so a lot of folks didn't get in. So if you saw an invite to a group called Probate Mastery Alumni, accept that. That's where everyone who's been through the program hangs out to help one another.
And just to add to that, All the Leads Mastermind also is a great place to go. I think we have, what do we have, a couple thousand members in there now, Chad, in that group?
I think we're over 3,000.
Yeah, it just amazes me. I'll be sitting there watching television with my wife, and somebody will ask a question. Before I can jump in and answer it, 5 of our seasoned subscribers will jump in and help them. So it's a really nice interactive way to get your questions answered really quickly by people that are out there doing the same thing that you're trying to do. All right, excellent. And last but not least, Tom, with anything you would like to share with the group?
I just want to remind everybody that you do sign up for our program. I always try to do an initial orientation session, which we also talk about implementing your marketing plan and things. So if you've never gone through that, it's really a very much higher level than the Mastery. The Mastery really digs down into a lot of things, but I normally try to do that with everyone up front. If you haven't been in that session and you would like to do it, just contact support, again, at alltheleads.com. Just let them know you'd like to have the orientation. That's it.
All right, excellent. Well, I think looks like we have 4 people in the queue. We have room for at least 10 or 12, so don't be shy. Just anything we can help you with. We love wins, but challenges, success stories, places you're getting stuck. Nothing's off limit. Just hit *6 and then hit 1. Try to get in the queue by 1:30 because we do cut it off. We try to end the call right at 2 o'clock. So it's better to sign in now than wait till the end. Hit *6 and hit 1. And let's go ahead and take the first person in the queue. The first up is phone number ending in 9234. You're up first.
Hi, this is Chad. How are y'all?
Hey, Chad. Excellent.
I didn't really have a question. I was just going to maybe, I guess, a little bit of how you had handled it. But I had the lightning strike call this week.
Oh, congratulations. You got it out of the way, right?
It was, and it wasn't even me calling them. They got the marketing letter, and this lady calls me, and I'm thinking, oh, good, I'm getting a response, and asks for me. And, I say, yeah, this is he, et cetera. And then, boy, she just started unloading, how bad we're hurting people and, the thousands of people we're hurting. We shouldn't build our business this way. Sounded like she'd really gotten a lot of letters from realtors, I guess, and stuff.
Sure.
And
now, Chad, you've been with us a while. Is that the first? At least a few months, I think. Is that the first time you've gotten that response?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good.
I've gotten hung up on or whatever. It's just typical stuff. But
sure.
Anyway, and she said, how dare you send me a condolence and this and that. And I said, excuse me, ma'am, I did not send you a condolence. She says, well, maybe that's to your credit, but, and then she just went on and on and on. So
Sure.
I got her name, said, I'm sorry if we caused you any pain. Let me get your name so that we don't, contact you again. And, that was pretty much it.
Okay. And again, I know Chad's going to give you a brief answer, but go to our search bar and put in lightning strike, and we'll hear. We've covered that numerous times in the role play calls. And the good news is lightning doesn't usually strike twice, and the whole time you do this, if you get a couple responses like that, that's pretty typical. The vast majority of the people are glad to hear from you. Chad, you want to give them a real concise answer or a brief answer how you would handle that? Would you handle it differently than what he did?
I'll start with a question. Did you let it to you, or did you shake it off?
Oh, it didn't bother me. It'd probably bother me more if I'd have called them than them calling me, because it's irrational, and I was, I didn't do a lot of explaining, because you could tell she was not in the mood to hear anything or explain.
Sure.
I did briefly just say, well, we just try to reach out and help, and but if you don't want that, that's fine. And it's just, she just wanted somebody to beat on, pretty much.
Sure. And it's important that you realize that it had nothing to do with you or the offer to help people in your community. She's in pain, and you struck a chord. So we talked about this last week. I mean, one of the things you can do is you identify the emotion that's driving her behavior, which is pain and fear, and just simply state that to her. Label it and say, it seems like you're really upset. And then silence is key there. And then she's going to blow off even more steam. And then find a way to weave in. So, listen, I can understand your position. Some of our best clients, actually, our conversation started just like this. But once they understood that we were, really trying to help, they saw a lot of value in our service. And then silence is key. And they will either hang up on you, or they will calm down, and they'll get that venting out. And then you can have a real conversation. Their ego will step back, and they'll start to talk to you as the person they are. But just understand they're scared. They're hearing from people who have a very selfish offer, and they're expecting you to be the exact same person. And if you can just keep them on the phone, and that's a good way to do that, is just, if they say, I think you're an ambulance chaser, just go, I'm an ambulance chaser? And then be quiet and let them elaborate on it and let them talk it out. That's your best chance of turning it into a conversation. And the reality is, like, some people, the first time I ever got blasted like that it was 2 months before I did my first probate deal. I didn't even know that her husband had passed away. I was mailing a high equity list, and this lady just read me the riot act, and I did what you did. I said, I'll take you off the list. 2 months later, her daughter called just frantic because her mom had a stroke, and she had needed cash right now because they were kicking her out of the hospital, and she couldn't get it. She didn't have the money to get her into a rehab facility. So their situations can change in a heartbeat. So
right.
just try to make a positive impression, and it takes 30 seconds, and they either hang up or they tell you they don't need your help. But if you make a positive impression and show them that that they were being, as you put it, irrational, then chances are when they need help, they're going to remember that, right?
Right.
And
right.
We can't get them all. I mean, the biggest takeaway here is don't take it personally, because it's not. And something you said in the beginning is really important. This is my opinion based on my values, but I don't ever offer condolences to somebody I don't know. There's a difference in being sympathetic and empathetic, and empathy is the key, but sympathy, reserve that for your family and friends that you know. But you're doing the right thing by not offering condolences, and whoever did that pissed her off even more, right? So
yeah, I mean, I felt like, I offered empathy. I've had somebody in a different situation be with that attitude, so I knew she was really not in the mood for explaining. I just said, I'm sorry if we caused you any pain. And I did get in a little bit that, we just try to reach out and help, and there's a lot of things we can do. I understand it's a stressful time. And But I said I did not offer you condolences.
Yeah.
I don't know you, or I don't know the person that died, and so I kind of empathized with her deal because I don't want to get that. And it's funny, my broker said, well, after I told him, she said, well, maybe you should send just a letter of condolence, after you talk to her. I was like, oh, hell no.
Chad, it sounds like you handled.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more thing, and we'll move
No.
on, Jim. The
Yeah.
one, if you like, the reason I ask if it stuck to you, a lot of folks have trouble shaking this off. And what I recommend, not necessarily what your broker recommended, but sit down and write a handwritten letter and just say, it was obvious you were upset when we spoke, so I just wanted to give you an opportunity to really understand why we reached out and why we did it so early. And these are some of the reasons. These are some of the most common problems faced by our clients and how we can help. And that's all I was trying to do was offer help. And believe me, I'm proud of what I do because I know I'm doing the right thing for the right reason. And
Great job.
Two things. One, it helps you clear your mind and get it off your chest so you can move on to the next call. Two, it lets them know your true intent.
Great job. And Chad, go to the website, type in lightning strike or ambulance chaser, and you'll hear numerous times where we've role-played this on our role-play calls. Thank you so much. Good job. Next up is phone number ending in 5511. You're up next. You're up. Are you there? Phone number ending in 5511. I can hear you. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the next one.
Hello.
Hello. Okay,
Sorry.
you are there. Go ahead. No problem.
I was mentally waiting for the last digits of my cell, but I'm calling from the.
Okay. No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this call. It's really great. My question is about approaching probate attorneys that my friends or family have connected me with. So these are not cold contacts, so to speak. Either I'm able to mention a name of the person that referred me, or I'm able to, or I get an email introduction from my friend or my cousin or something. My question is, how do I actually approach them? Do I ask them for a phone call to talk about how we can have a mutually beneficial relationship, or do I ask for to meet with them in person? But I don't want them thinking I'm coming to their office for their services.
Yeah, in person is the most effective approach.
Okay.
And you can decide whether you want to call ahead and try to set an appointment. Most folks have really good success just walking in, talk to the gatekeeper, the receptionist, and you just walk in and say, listen, Mary Smith is my cousin. Told me that connected us through email, and I just wanted to introduce myself. And I was in the neighborhood. Does Jane Doe have 5 minutes to chat real quick?
Okay.
And just sit down and say, Mary understood. We caught up recently, and I told her what we've been doing, and she insisted that I have to meet you because you're one of the best family law attorneys in town. So I just wanted to help you understand what it is we do, and see if there's any way we could make your life any easier here, and just start the conversation. But face to face is definitely going to be the easiest. And you can, how many are there?
I have about 11 attorneys that I've gotten this way.
Oh, that's great. Well, I would recommend you can try calling. It's what we found is it's tougher for agents to call on their own behalf. We have a pretty good tactic for doing it from our ISA center as kind of a third party.
Right.
But when it comes to agents, most agents are more successful if they just show up kind of midweek, midday in the office and just ask for a few minutes of their time. And don't be surprised if that turns into an hour-long meeting. It usually does because they truly see value in what you're offering.
Okay. And do you advise taking any material with me, like my business card, the brochure? I don't know, anything to just leave them with.
If you have the trifold brochure that we offer, that's a
Okay.
really effective piece, and a lot of attorneys even ask you to leave behind a stack. And we have a
Okay.
lot of our folks who have built their attorney network. They go around on like a monthly or weekly rotation, replenishing those flyers in each of the attorney's offices, so they're actually getting handed out.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Excellent question. Thank you. We have 3 more in the queue, guys. We have plenty of room for more. Don't be shy. We're still looking for our win of the week. Oh, by the way, I forgot to announce last week our win of the week was Paul Campbell. He had taken 2 listings. He bought a house that was in probate, and he had 2 more appointments. Paul, if you're on the line, let us know how those other 2 appointments went. And we're looking for a success story. If anybody has one, hit *6 and hit 1. In the meantime, next up is phone number ending in 5609. You're up next.
Hi, this is Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
I have 3 short questions, I believe.
Sure.
One, when you get the answering machine, when you're making callbacks, when you get the answering machine, do you have any recommendations or data on whether it's better to leave a message or try to call back?
Okay.
My other question is how different should you make your second and third mailings look from your first? Should each mailing be distinctly different, or can you mail basically the same thing each time? And my third question is just like to have some good reply options when they say they have everything taken care of.
Okay. So first, with the voicemail, it depends on your call frequency. So if you're calling every week and leaving voicemail, you're eventually going to become a pain in the butt, right? If you call the first time and leave a voicemail and then make follow-up calls weekly and don't leave voicemail, that's going to be, if you leave 1 voicemail a month. At a minimum, we recommend that you send a letter, make a phone call, wait 30 days, and repeat, for a 90-day period. But if you want to be more aggressive on the phones, that's great. Just don't be leaving the same voicemail every week. You could, if you're going to call weekly or every 3 or 4 days, just leave a message the first time and then call back until you speak to somebody, but don't leave voicemails. That's kind of best practices. As far as mail, it really depends on it depends on your market. I mean, I have done a lot of testing with sequences and just sending the same letter all 3 times, and I've honestly had equal success regardless of whether it was a sequence or just the probate options letter 3 times exactly the same. What's more important is the frequency and being there when they are ready to make a decision. So they've at least gotten to the point where mentally where they said, okay, we need to deal with this. They've gotten in the car, drove to the courthouse, pulled together all the documents, and filed probate. But a lot of folks still aren't ready to take that first big step of cleaning the house out, and they just kind of put their head in the sand. So some folks are going to be really proactive and do it the first week after filing probate. Others won't respond for, a month or 2 or 10. But the nature of our letter, because it's an ingredient envelope, and it is a very different type of letter than they'll get from anyone else, they tend to stick around. So we have a variety of letters because, there's no such thing as a marketing budget. It's always a test budget. So you find, you can test sequences versus just the same letter over and over in your market, but we know that both ways get consistent results.
Okay.
Your last one, how to handle the "we've got it handled" objection. So typically what that person is saying is, we've heard from a bunch of people like you, and we don't want what you're selling, right? Because they think they already think they know what you're going to say. So you've got to interrupt that pattern and have a real conversation. A couple ways you can do it. Kind of an abrupt way is well, that's interesting. That's how 90% of our clients say that, and then they realize that they have real estate that's uninsured in the estate, and they didn't know they had that exposure. have you switched the insurance policy yet? And typically that'll stop the tracks. Now, if there's no real estate, it can mildly backfire on you, but typically estates are going to have real estate that's been vacant for more than 30 days, and most all homeowner policies won't cover that after a 30-day vacancy. You have to have a vacant policy on it. So that's one of the ways that you can kind of really get their attention, because the attorneys aren't doing that. Their insurance agent doesn't mention it, and they probably don't know about it. The other thing, feel, felt, found is something that we talk about often. It's just a position of empathy. We got it handled. I understand how you feel. I mean, that's how most of our best clients said that. That was one of the first things they said to us. But what they realized once they got into it, the attorney was only going to handle about 25%. They had to handle 75%, and they've never done it before. And that's why our service exists. We bridge that gap. So do you really have everything handled, or you just think I was going to say the same thing as the last guy and you wanted to rush off the phone?
Okay.
So, but the key is to just interrupt that, because they've gotten used to running people away because they're not ready to they haven't seen enough value to move them yet. And you gotta get them out of that loop first. Then you can actually talk to the person. And if you, as Jim's been pointing people to the search bar, this is something we've discussed several times on our roll calls. So if you go to the role play archive or go to the search bar and just put in like the phrase "we've got it handled," that you should bring up some of those role play calls where you can hear it in a live role play format.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And just a short version that I use, and we've heard so many people successful with, if you get someone, we've got it handled, and you just feel like they're in the process of hanging up, just a short version of that is, okay, great, so you've already switched your insurance? And just shut up. And they'll always at least ask you, what are you talking about? And that gets you in a conversation. Because, Chad, have you ever run into anybody who had actually switched their insurance? I don't think I have. It's just not something that people do. Yeah, none of them do it. Now, the reality is the insurance company may or may not cover them, but technically, if there is a mudslide, a hurricane, a tornado, a fire, that asset could be at risk. And now you just told them something that nobody else had told them, not their attorney, not their insurance agent. You're actually providing value. Now you're going to get in a conversation, and they're going to trust you way more than anybody else who just called and wanted to talk about, wanted to talk about how great they were and how they could help them. So, try that and let us know how it works, okay?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for participating. We have 3 more in the queue, guys. We probably have room for more. Just hit *6 and hit 1. Next up is phone number ending in 2686. You're up next.
Hi, this is Kevin. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Well, actually, first thing is good news. My wife and I are a real estate team. We're going to be signing up for the Probate Mastery starting next week. So just want to let you know that.
Great.
And yeah, we've been listening to your recordings too on the Wednesday calls, and that's been really helpful. My question, I got a couple questions. I'll just throw them out there.
Sure.
First is when I've submitted a couple of programming suggestions. So my question is on that is, how do we find out, the only status I see is that it's an open ticket, right? So how do we find out, is it being considered? Is it going to be in the next release of programming updates, or when is it going to be considered?
So with development tickets, I mean, if we have multiple people that are asking for something, we kind of let those development requests sit until we see that there's, we obviously, as a growing company, we have one of our biggest challenges is scaling technology and keeping up with the appetite of not only you guys, but worse, us, as we come up with new ideas. So if it's something that we've heard more than once, typically we'll go ahead and work, that's when we'll kind of move things into development. What in particular did you recommend?
Well, I'd like to differ with you just slightly on that. I was just my quick background. I was a 25-year programmer. So I've learned that people don't make a lot of suggestions because either they don't want to or whatever, but it's easy for me to do that because that's my background. And so when you say there's a lot, waiting for a lot of people, I just never saw that in my career. People would say, well, it's just the way it is and such. So I just see things. There's 2 or 3 things I've seen that, like searching, for example, the leads. I've learned you have to go into each file to search instead of doing a group search on all of your leads.
So here's what I'd like to do in the interest of keeping this all on track. I mean, you can respond to that support ticket. Tomorrow we're actually doing a review of this, of how we've been watching how you guys use the subscriber portal and where the choke points are. And we're going to do a full technology audit tomorrow and consider what changes need to be made. So if you want to bring that ticket to the top, go in and comment on the ticket and, tell them to assign it to chat or whatever. And we'll definitely take it into consideration tomorrow before noon.
And then Tim, I know, was trying to comment also. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to say is that what's important to know is that we build our product around the information that we get from our customers in large part. Like Chad said, we have our own appetite for technology and all the things that we're supposed to go do that. And, we could write it 117 times and still have a lot more things to go do. But anything that you ask, we don't blow it off. We do take it seriously. And like anybody else, our job is to make sure that we're satisfying as much as we can. But our job is to look at the requests that come in and see if they make sense in regard to the bigger picture, and we do that. What we don't do is typically comment on what we're doing with the product and what we're developing and not developing, and we're unlikely to probably go do that much differently than we're doing now, other than that we do take into consideration. We appreciate hearing about it, and I can tell you that probably in every release of the software, and we don't do formal releases, we just make changes as we go, most of them are coming from feedback from good folks like you who said, hey, it'd be cool if we could go do this. So please send those in and, keep an eye on what's coming out. And the one thing we need to do a better job of is letting you know when we have made the changes that we've made over time and keep them in there. So it's not that if you send something in that's a great idea, we wait for 6 or 7 more people to do it. If it's a great idea, we'll grab it right then and say, that's a really cool thing. We should have thought about that. Let's go do it. So, be aware that we're looking at it, and like Chad said, we do look at it. We do try to hopefully there's a groundswell for it. We've had people ask for things that were very specific to them that wouldn't have made much sense for us to take a lot of time and energy to go do. But if you've got that kind of background, please keep them coming.
Okay, fair enough. My next question is, and I think you answered it really good at the beginning when you said go to the search bar without logging in.
Right.
Search the past webinars. So I'm going to ask this question. If you want to tell me go search on the search bar, then that's fine. One is tips on how to talk to surviving spouses. And the other is, when you're calling older leads that maybe, we've sent out a lot of letters and weren't real diligent in the beginning of making phone calls. So we've got a lot of old leads that we've only sent letters to. So any tips on calling them up, because they usually say, I don't remember seeing any, same old stuff. I don't remember seeing it or whatever.
Sure. So on the first one, there is a tips from the trainer blog post that I'll point you to. That's the best answer I can give. It's about a 12-minute video. Actually, the story that I told earlier in this call is part of that. So if you just type in surviving spouse in the search bar, it'll take you to that blog post, and there's copy and a video, and that's the best answer I could possibly give you. I lost what your second question was on old leads. So how to open the conversation with those older leads. So rather than saying, we sent you a letter last week, you can just simply say, hey, we sent you a letter a while back and honestly just haven't had time to follow up. And I was just touching base to see, did you guys get everything handled with the probate, or could you use any help? And just kind of change that very beginning. Otherwise, the structure of the conversation is going to be the same. Just most important thing when you're calling those older lists is just have the right mindset and know that by now 95% of them have dealt with it, but the other 5% are more motivated than ever. Those are the come list me calls, and I think it was last week Sam was telling us she's getting those come list me calls where the phone rings and they're just ready to go finally, and she hasn't sent them any marketing for a year. So just know that the ones that will need your help are in there, and they're going to be super motivated. Don't let it discourage you that most of them have already dealt with it and don't really need your service.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
All right, sir.
See you Monday.
Good questions.
Do you have another question?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much for participating. Please keep the suggestions coming. I'm the least technologically proficient, but my partners know what you're talking about, and we'll look at them and we'll get them done as we can. Thank you. Next up is phone number ending in 3999. You're up next.
Thank you. My name is Dean, and
Hi, Dean.
I sent in a question on the support, and it was sent back to me to ask on the call. So.
Oh, good.
So there's a question.
Must be a great question.
I don't know if it's a good question or not, but it's a good question for me. Is the personal representative able to take out a loan against their house to do repairs?
So there are inheritance advance companies that can fund things like this, but they're not, they're charging a pretty high interest rate. I don't know of any conventional financing that will allow them to do that, because it's still titled in the name of the deceased. But the way that you could do that, we actually had a person on this call once, and he actually went to a pawn shop owner and cut a deal with him where he would write private loans to do just what you're suggesting. So a pawn shop owner, obviously they're business minded. They're looking to loan money and have some collateral. So that was a good fit for his business. It was a pawn shop that was there in the community. If he needed 10, 15 grand, he could go draw down on it. The estate could go draw down a loan for 10 grand at 10% and get it across the finish line. You could also look within your investors. So private money is big in every area, but most people in brokerage aren't really aware of all the private mortgage industry. But if you have an investor, especially if the asset's free and clear, where they can put record a first against it, you can get one of your investors to give you a bridge loan. The other alternative is you can have a relationship with a contractor, a well-established contractor who run their business like a business and has enough cash flow and cash reserves to actually float an invoice for 90 or 120 days. And they can put a mechanics lien on the asset and then invoice escrow, and then it can be paid on the settlement statement. And it's even reasonable for them to charge a monthly interest rate for that. So if they put $50,000 in materials and labor in there, they can charge 10% per month on the invoice. So it essentially is a loan. Beyond what they're making on their service, they're also making 10% for not being paid over that time. So there's a lot of different ways you can accomplish it. I don't think you're going to find a solution in conventional lending, but there are a lot of creative ways that you can do that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So that answers my second question, because I was asking for creative financing options when dealing with probate properties, but that's one of them. Are there other creative financing options when you're dealing with them? Or is that basically?
Most commonly, the creative financing for the buyer can help you generate even more equity for your seller. So, for example, a lease with option to purchase, if you've got an asset, especially if it's free and clear, which 67% of probate real estate is free and clear. So it's more likely than not that you'll have, no loans on the property. So if that's the case, you can sell it with owner financing, contract for deed, or you could do a lease with option to purchase. The beautiful part about that is typically you sell on price or terms. So if you're flexible on terms, you don't have to be flexible on price. You can sell at a premium at the top of the market because they have those buyers have such limited inventory to choose from. They're typically not picky. A lot of times they will waive their inspections and waive all contingencies and pay full price. And with my program, like what I do is I take a 4% option fee. It's not a deposit, and that's very clear in the paperwork. And then they pay a monthly market rent, and the fee comes back to them when they exercise their option and close. But the rent is just additional money in the estate's bank.
Okay.
Excuse me. And if you're going to do that, I would find a mentor. Maybe, I tell folks, we talk about this a lot in Mastery, like one of the best contacts you can have if you're going to venture into creative financing is a real estate attorney that has a lot of experience working with investors, short sales, foreclosures, title issues, private lending. Like they can be a great resource to make sure you're structuring the deals properly. And are you a licensee?
No, I'm an investor.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about a broker. A lot of brokers are terrified about creative financing options, but if you're an investor, you can work hand in hand with an attorney to put some of these together. And if you ever need help, you can always just call the main line and ask for me. I've structured deals a million different ways, and 30 seconds worth of details, I can usually see how it can go together and give you some options. So if you ever feel stuck, just give us a call.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right. Do you have another question?
Well, not really a question. I wanted to say that we've been doing this for about 3 months, and based on letters only, because, we still have that FEAR about making a lot of the phone calls, that we've gotten 2 contacts. We've been out. We're going this Friday to look at another house, but we've already been out to look at a house and talk to the people about what their options are. I think where I am failing in doing that, doing any better, is that I don't bring a contract with me. So that's my new one to get over and make sure I have the contract with me and have everything handled. But I just want to say that in 3 months, for us to be able to get out to 2 properties, we think we're doing pretty good.
That's great. And I know Chad has a comment, but we'll make those calls for you. If you're not going to make them, the letters are great, and it's wonderful that you're getting good responses. But if you couple the letters with a phone call, you probably get exponentially more deals out of it. The 1-2 combination of the letter and the phone call works so well. And if you don't want to do them, our ISAs will make those calls for you. Just let us know.
I know. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Go ahead, Chad. I know you had a comment also.
You covered it. That's all I was going to say.
Oh, okay, good.
That's not going to help me get over the FEAR, though. That's all I got to say. I got to reach out there and do it. So thank you.
Go do it. We got 3 more in the queue, guys, and we're going to cut it off there so we can get done right on the hour. Next up is phone number ending in 7428. You're up next.
Oh, hey guys, it's Dave here in Denver. Thanks for these calls. They're always great. I had a couple questions for you. One's a quick follow-up regarding the creative financing lease with the option to purchase type approach. How does an agent monetize that type of transaction?
So that really is up to the broker. As I said, most brokers are terrified of this. If you are a licensee, you don't necessarily have to do this on your license. If you don't have an LLC, you can simply form one for, in most states, $50 to $100 in about 5 minutes. If it's a single member LLC, you don't necessarily need an operating agreement day one. So you could do it as a consultant and put the deal together through your LLC and then just collect the option fee versus taking a commission. Most real estate brokers aren't going to be comfortable with an agent taking any money from a deal until there's an actual title, until there's a closing. So it could tie up your payday for a year or 2 sometimes if you go that route. So But if there's license, talk to your broker, make sure they understand. And this is what I did with my broker. She didn't want to pay anything out. So I said, okay, so here's the deal. I'll do this with my investor hat on. And then I'll show you everything. And she was fine with that. So you just need to disclose that disclose your licensee status and your paperwork, and do it through an LLC as a consultant. It's just bringing the seller and the buyer together and collecting a fee for making sure it was properly structured.
Okay, great. The other question I had was, what's Jim's one-line voicemail? It works real well.
Say again? I'm sorry.
We've talked about it a bunch of times. I've heard it. I just didn't write it down, I guess. Your real simple voicemail that you leave when you were doing this.
I left a very generic voicemail. Hey, this is Jim. It appears from the county records that you're the executor of an estate in Florida. I may have the wrong number. If I do, no need to call back. That avoided me having a lot of conversations with people that thought they won the lottery. If you do have property in Florida you want to sell, give me a call. Hey, this is Jim. It appears that you've got property in Florida. If you have property you want to sell, give me a call. I didn't say whether I was a realtor, an investor. I found the more generic the message, the more likely to call back, because they just wanted to see what you were up to and what you had to offer. And that's what you want. You don't want to sell yourself on the phone. You want to get you don't want to sell yourself in a voicemail, I should say. You want to get in a conversation, and the less you tell them, the more you pique their interest, the more likely they are to call back.
Perfect. And appreciate that. And then I would love to throw in the suggestion box a search all files option in that search functionality for the lists that are already in our portal. And then lastly, I am working that Arapahoe County list, and maybe this is a call we take offline just because of its unique nature of Arapahoe County and its process of delivering those leads. But I'm really struggling there with I pushed I've got a handled objection, get around it, but it's ultimately sold almost 9 times out of 10, and just was doing a follow-up with that and wanting to see your thoughts on if
Sure.
Denver's the same, or maybe I don't have any problem getting on the phone and even doing things remotely. So I guess looking for some feedback.
I've coached people in Laramie and Weld, which is very similar. That's just northwest of you, I guess.
Yeah.
And what we find there is the same thing. A lot of times, because you're in such probably the most fiercely competitive market in the country right now, a lot of folks are getting hit early and often and do sell the house. But what we find is that there's a number of them that just kind of lock down and start using that. We've got it handled. Leave us alone. And there still are, like in Laramie and Weld, on 4 months worth of leads. We failed for 3 months, and then we listed 6 listings in a week, and it was like a 6 or 8 day period. So the name of the game there is just kind of tenacity. Like it's just keep calling until you find those ones that haven't been helped, because they are there. We've seen it all over Colorado. It's tougher than most areas, but there are still people who didn't sell early, who were they were either grieving or procrastinating, but they still have it and they need to deal with it now more than ever. So it's probably not the ideal answer, but if you keep pushing, you'll persevere and actually get that business that everyone else has given up on. And we've been able, at Colorado Springs, I don't know what county that is, we've also seen the same thing there, working with people one-on-one.
All right, sir. Does that help?
All right.
All right. Two more in the queue. We'll get this wrapped up right on the hour. Next up is phone number ending in 7477. You're up next.
Hi, it's Cliff here in Florida. Good to talk to you all today. I had a couple of questions for you. When the ISA calls for us, when you're doing it for us, do they have a particular script that they're working off, and can I see that? And the other thing is, how do they go about introducing themselves and our services, our company?
So when you sign up for ISA services, there's kind of a step one, like step two in that is tell us about your business. And we have an ISA onboarding form. So we want to know how many years you've been in business, what's your specialty, anything you would want your customers to know in the initial conversation. We try to get that from you before we initiate your first campaign, so we can speak intelligently and it sounds like we're calling from your office. As far as scripts, our callers have all been trained the same way you guys have been. So we don't really offer scripts even to the ISAs. They're on our role play calls, they're on our mastermind calls. They're immersed in this, learning, hearing from you guys, hearing from us, and they're trained to identify is the real estate, and then spot motivation and set the appointment. And about 80% of the time it's a phone appointment, 20% of the time it's that we get all the way to an in-person appointment. But
what is
every conversation?
One of my questions is, what are the opening remarks that an ISA is going to say to kind of do the quick, just before they get into everything about, our office and our experience, et cetera? How do they introduce themselves?
So we're going to follow kind of the same thing we teach. So, hi, this is Chad from John Doe's office. John asked me to give you a call because we've got a team of folks here locally that help families in probate, and he wanted to see if you had some time to talk later this week. And then insert objection here, and the conversation can go in one of a million directions, right?
Right.
But it's kind of the same thing. We want to start the conversation the same way we teach you guys to, but we want it to sound like it's coming directly from your office.
Okay. And let's say the ISA they've reached the lead. They do have a conversation, but the person's not interested in having a phone meeting or anything yet. And so the ISA makes some notes into the CRM, and then we're going to be calling and following up, right, at some point. And so my question there is, when we're calling and following up, is there a recommendation about how to approach that, or is it just basically the same? We're aware that there's been a probate opened, and we're just calling to see if we can help you in any way with your real estate needs. Is it pretty much like that?
Yeah, and I think definitely the details in the notes are going to be relevant there. So if they if there's a note that they just weren't ready, you would call and say, listen, you spoke to one of our assistants a few months ago, and we just we understand you weren't ready, but we've given you some space and just wanted to follow up and make sure you're taken care of. Is there anything we can help with? So, pay attention to the notes and try to refer back to that conversation so they understand you're following up and, actually care about helping them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Perfect timing. We've got 5 minutes left, and last up this week is phone number ending in 0446. You're up last. We saved the best for last. No pressure.
Oh, I hope so. I'm just following up on the ISA thing as well. I'm not a subscriber yet in your for your leads per county. I've been listening on the phone calls and definitely getting some great information from you guys. So thanks so much for that. My question about the ISA is that a standalone kind of subscription we can pay for, or do you have to be all in on all the leads?
Right now, it's what we offer to our subscribers, and we call on behalf of one subscriber per county. So if you have a list send us an email to support@alltheleads and let us know what your need is, and we'll take a look and see if we can help you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
All right. Perfect timing, guys. We're coming right up on the hour. I think it's the first time in months we finish in 2 minutes early. We had a great turnout as expected. We had great participation. I always end these calls the same way. I want to thank you all for taking an hour out of your week to be here. Thank everybody who was willing to participate. And I want to challenge each and every one of you. Take one idea, one thought, one thing that you heard on this call that inspired you. Go out and put it into practice and come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week, and we will talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.